Welcome, everybody. Welcome to I See You, Sis, conversation between sisters across the African diaspora. My name is Marlon Solomon. I am the president of the Afro-American Culture Initiative, the organization that is working with building Africa's future to put on this lovely event. Our event is here for Black History Month to celebrate. And of course, we're putting our Black queens first. And this is a beautiful event. I can't wait to hear what our lovely panelists have to say. Before we get started, we have been commissioned by the Boston Public Health Commission. So we're putting out, we all dealing with this COVID-19. It's not easy out there. So we're definitely trying to do what we can. So we are going to play a little small video about contact tracing, and it'll also help that by the time we get done, hopefully everybody will be here because some of us are operating on African time. So we'll play this little video and then we'll get started. Thank you for coming.
Hi everybody, I am here to talk to you today about my experience with the coronavirus test. Sometime last week I started feeling sick, like scratchy throat and just really fatigued, and then I had a cough, but it started to get really bad. And after 2 days of feeling like this, I started to panic. I said, oh my God, I hope I don't have COVID-19. Around and if anybody was infected, but then how do you know? Because people they don't have any symptoms, they're asymptomatic, so you just don't know who's infected, who's not infected. So I made a couple phone calls to the friends that I was in contact with, and I said, I'm sick. Are you guys sick? Do you have any symptoms? They said no. If you get a test, let us know. My doctor's office, I used our health portal. It's called My Health Online. And when I went on there to make an appointment, I saw that there was a COVID test. So I took the test, and I had many of the symptoms, but not all. And I still felt a little worried, and I was thinking I should probably tell my family that I live with so that they don't then go out and infect somebody. So I told my family that I wasn't feeling well and that I think I should get a COVID test, and they felt that it was best that I quarantine in the basement away from the rest of the family, which it feels bad no matter what. It's the right thing to do, but it just feels bad and feels scary. She took my hands and told me to grip the side of the bed. It was like, oh my God. And then she just shoved this thing up my nose as far as it could possibly go. It's very uncomfortable. It hurt for like 2 seconds. It actually wasn't painful. It's just your reaction is to like, just get it out. There's something in your nose. You want to get it out. You want to shake. You want to move. But, it literally is like 10 seconds long and it's fine. I was scared, to be honest. I wondered if it did test positive, how would that affect my friends that I was around? Is everyone I know now gonna die because of me? I felt guilty. There were a lot of emotions, At some point I thought, well, if I do have this, maybe I should write notes and say goodbye to everyone, because, you just don't know. As soon as the doctor saw me, she said, I don't think you have COVID, based on all the questions and everything, but I'm still going to give you a test. She said, nobody leaves urgent care or the emergency room without a COVID test. I said, okay.
Yeah, she tested negative. She's one of my friends. So we thank God for that. Everybody, please visit our website, afroamerican1.org/COVID-19. A lot of great information about vaccinations, testing sites, where you can make your appointments. A lot of great information on there. So yeah, so it's I see you sis time. We have our great panelists, which let's let them say a quick hello. I guess everybody should just go, we have Emmanuel, Toynia, Katsura, Nkiru, and Kathy. So they're going to get to it very shortly. But before we get started, I guess let me just quickly give you a little bit of ground rules. Now this is, oh wow, we have a lot of people on board now. So we have, so basically, yes, welcome to the show. It's going to be about an hour and a half. We want you to fill out the polls and the surveys. I am going to launch the poll now, right? And by the time we get started with the question and answers, hopefully you would have answered the polls. So we're launching the polls. Ooh, let me make sure okay, hold on. Hold on. I want to make sure that I allowed the relaunch polling. Yes. Okay, sorry. I didn't allow my panelists to vote. I want them to vote too. Yeah, no. So, okay. So these are the little ground rules. If you look down low as we're talking, as they're discussing, because we're going to have a lot of different great questions coming out, please put your answers in the Q&A section, not the chat, because there's going to be a lot of chat going on and we may not be able to see all your questions. So to be able to make sure that your questions are answered, please put the answers in the Q&A section. Like I said, answer the polls. You will get a survey, just a survey about Afro-American Culture Initiative after the program. So please fill that out. We really need your feedback. At the end of the program, we're going to have a little chance for people to discuss and ask their questions. So I'll allow you to speak. Please keep your answers just a little short. I know that sometimes we have a lot of great questions, but let's get, I want to give everybody a chance to discuss. And of course, feel free to chat in the commentary, because we definitely want, to get your feedback. But remember, we're a family, so make sure everything is nice and polite. For those who don't know, the Afro-American Culture Initiative, we're a Boston-based nonprofit. We're building cultural bridges in the African diaspora through education, technology, and travel. We do independent research, social justice, project management, and we produce fun educational content. I need to change that, like what you guys are going to experience here today. So without further ado, let's start going on with the program. So in honor of 2021's Black History Month theme on representation, identity, and diversity in the Black family, we will be discussing the role of the extended family and fictive kinships, whether it takes a village to raise one another, and challenging roles of women in our world today. In the spirit of sisterhood, we see you, sis. That's awesome. And today, our moderator will be Nkiru Obi. Nkiru is a global affairs scholar with a strong passion for education, children, and women's rights, and building bridges of cultural understanding between the African diaspora. She is the host of Conversations from the Diaspora, a Building Africa's Future podcast, a podcast dedicated to telling stories and sharing experiences from the perspective of African immigrants of the millennial generation and other generations across the African diaspora. I'm glad you included us. Or at least me. So without further ado, I hand over to Nkiru. Welcome, take it away.
Thank you, Marlon. Thank you so much for the introduction and for the opportunity to collaborate with the Afro-American Cultural Initiative and for the informative video on COVID. Let's all continue to do our part to stay safe and to stay well during this time. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this special celebration of sisterhood. I am your host, your sister, and your friend Nkiru, and I'll be moderating tonight's event titled I See You Sis, a conversation between sisters across the African diaspora. So before I introduce my panelists, I would like to share why I chose this topic and of course the title of the event. As Marlon mentioned earlier in the intro, this year's Black History Month theme is centered on family. And as we go through our lives, we add people to our families who may not be blood related, but love related, as I like to call them. These people can be close friends that might be part of your village, your support system, your extended family. And especially for those of us who are living in diaspora and who work or school or otherwise navigate these systems where we're oftentimes the minority, it's always nice to be able to identify with one another and to be able to say, I see you, sis. So with that being said, I will introduce my lovely panelists. I have Kathy, I have Toynia, I have Katsura, and I have Emmanuel. So Kathy is a firm believer that we all have an interesting story that is worth telling. Through her passion for taking people's vision and making them into reality, she created Heartfelt Media, which is a PR firm to address the need for underrepresented creatives in her community to have a voice and a platform to share their stories. And you can follow her on Instagram at Heartfelt Media LLC. And next is Toynia Edmund. She is a mom, a domestic violence survivor, an advocate, family advocate, author, and all-around creative facilitator. She combines all of her talents to continue to build the Black community through sisterhood and fellowship. You may follow her on Instagram at Toynia B. Edmund. Then I have Katsura Clark Weathers, which is my godson's mommy. She is a licensed cosmetologist. She's a real estate agent and published theological scholar. Her background in health science and African-American studies has aided her to facilitate wellness in women and communities through advocacy, education, and community service. She combines her experience as a cosmetologist with her theological background to create a space for women of color to see themselves and be seen in the image of God. And you can follow her on Instagram at Katsura Weathers. And last but not least, I have Emmanuel. She's a stay-at-home mom with a passion for empowering young women to find their voice and love themselves. She believes that the role of African women is evolving in a more progressive way in our generation. As a mother, she strives to provide unconditional love to her family and help others navigate motherhood by providing emotional and mental support. And you can follow her on Instagram at Emma Lando. So ladies, thank you so much for being here. Before we get started into our main discussion tonight, I'm interested in knowing what were some of your thoughts on the poll questions. And Marlon, if you could bring up the results so we can kind of look at it together. So these poll questions kind of are going to guide our conversation a little bit tonight because they're going to come up in different ways in our conversation. And as I was preparing my notes for our event, one of the points that stood out to me, again, in line with the Black History Month theme, was this notion of fictive relationships or fictive kinships, which I know is of great importance to those of us in the African diaspora, our African-American family, as well as those from the continent of Africa, due to the legacy of slavery and the separation of families, and this overall longing for building familiar relationships, which is the same kind of feeling for those of us who are coming from the continent, when we try to connect with those in the diaspora and create new systems of families and associations and networks and villages while we are physically removed from our extended families in our home countries. So ladies, with that in mind, were there any questions that kind of stood out to you from our poll questions that you would like to talk about? Feel free to just hop in. And thank you again to all of our attendees who are logged in. Appreciate you for logging in this time. So I think, ladies, you guys are unmuted, so feel free to unmute yourself to answer which questions stood out to you.
I'll say the question that stood out to me was, who do you consider to be a part of your village? Initially, I was going to go with immediate family. And then immediate family and people I grew up around. But as I kept reading, my final answer was that it was a combination of all of these, especially now that I am married and have relocated and have a child. I've really been able to see that I do have a village that is surrounding me, and it extends from immediate family and people that I grew up with, and even entering into my union with my husband, like my village has expanded tremendously. And then when having our son, we are just able to see how much support we actually have from our village. So that is the reason why that question stood out for me.
That's beautiful. Anyone else?
I mean, she told us the answer. She said everything I was going to say. Yeah, but just to piggy off of what she says about the village, that, you know, you will think that your village would only be like, you know, your family, especially after having children, you think that it'll only be your mom and then your aunts and like your cousins and stuff like that. But definitely for me, my friends have been part of my children's life since the day I found out I was pregnant until now. You know, they've always been there for every step of the way. Every doctor's appointment, they've been there. Every birthdays, they've been there. I mean, they're literally like my children's aunts. Like they're literally like second mom to my children. And I cannot tell you how much that makes me feel. So like it's such a relief to know that you have those people in your corner, that you know that, okay, if anything ever happens to me, besides my parents and of who's their direct family, I know that my friends, my girlfriends will be there for my kids no matter what. You know, it's a sense of comfort, and I don't know how to explain it. It's an amazing feeling to have that support, because pregnancy and motherhood, it's not easy. It's a roller coaster, you know, and to see that you have the same people who've been in your corner from day one, that's amazing.
That's beautiful. Kathy, Toy?
Hey, I would say the question that stood out to me, let me pull up the results again, was the question about have you ever felt judged or treated differently from significantly older women in your community who should serve as communities or guides, but instead show the same jealousy or competitive spirit? And it shows that, you know, the majority of us said yes. And I guess it is disheartening for me because I have experienced, you know, this type of jealousy and judgment from, you know, older women in our community. And I'm also in a position now where I'm a guide and a mentor to younger, you know, women and girls and stuff like that. I work with foster children. So to me, I guess it, you know, gives me more of a sense that what I'm doing is important, and being a mentor that's actually guiding and nurturing is important, instead of, you know, knocking these younger women down.
Kathy?
Hi, everyone. The question that stood out to me would be the Black woman question. How do you say Black? Oops. The first question, which would be, what is your relationship like with other women, specifically Black women? And I answered that I have love for all of them. I just love to see Black women thrive and live luxurious lives, because I feel like we all deserve it, you know? So that is my answer.
That's very good. Let me just let everyone know the results. So with the first question, what is your relationship like with other women, specifically Black women? 35% said that I am my sister's keeper. 65% said it's all love when I see them. The next question, how many close girlfriends would you say that you have in your inner circle that you can genuinely trust and depend on? 6% said none. I am my own best friend. 18% said, 18% said they only have one close girlfriend. 12% said they have two. 29% said they have three. And 35% said they have four or more. So that's, to me, that's quite surprising. And unfortunately, but you know, we're going to discuss that tonight. The third question is, why do you think many women would rather repeatedly forgive a man's faults than other women? 76%, the majority said that the lack of self-esteem and self-worth outside of a man. So that could be a lot of internalized kind of thinking due to the societies we live in.
Lack of good men in the community. Oh, you guys can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you. Lack of
I
good
answered
men.
that one. The Black men, we need more Black good men.
So 12% said lack of good men in the community, and another 12% said general competition in our community. Again, that's a challenge. You know, I think for many of us, we tend to see each other as competition rather than, you know, sisters or people that you can build or support or learn from. I think the more of us unite and work together, we can do more than trying to divide and, you know, break each other down. You know, we can do a lot more when we work together. So catch that message. And number 4, have you ever found yourself internally competing or sizing up another woman who was younger than you? And I feel like this is maybe more so for like older women, because as Toy mentioned earlier, many of us have experienced older women in the workplace or in our personal communities who kind of, maybe they feel because we're younger or we're giving them some level of respect that they have to, I don't know, maybe they take it for granted or they try to take advantage of that, which again is, you know, not good. So 24% said yes, and then 76% said no. And then the 5th question, which is kind of the reverse of number 4, have you ever felt judged or treated differently from significantly older women in your community who should serve as mentors or guides, but instead show the same jealousy or competitive spirit? And again, 76% said yes, and then 24% said no. And then finally, the last question, in line with this year's Black History Month theme on the Black family, who do you consider part of your village? 12% said their immediate family. Another 12% said that people who they grew up around. 24% said your circle of friends and select family members. 0% said their extended family. 12% said people that they call family but aren't blood related. And then the majority, 71%, said a mix of all of these. And surprisingly, 6% said that none of these people they consider part of their village. So I'm interested in, you know, hopefully hearing from that person. So after we've just kind of gone over those questions, I would like to go into our conversation guide, our guiding questions. So with the first question, and Marlon, if you can go to the next slide, please. The first question is, what does sisterhood look like for millennials? And actually, before I do that, I wanted to kind of tell our panelists, or I guess rather, the breakdown. So we have two members from the continent, 2 members from the US. So I tried to kind of get like a split to kind of have that continental African perspective and then the African American perspective. I wanted to get some Afro-Caribbeans and Afro-Latinos, or Latinas rather, but I didn't, you know, I couldn't find any within our time. But so I have Kathy representing the Liberian and Nigerian side, Emmanuel representing the Congolese side, Katsura representing New York, and Toy representing Pennsylvania / North Carolina and Georgia. So, you know, she's representing many states. And then me representing the beautiful city of Charlotte, North Carolina. Well, you know, so with the first question, what does sisterhood look like for millennials? And Katsura, you're going to take that one first, and then whoever wants to, you know, spring off of that, go ahead.
Hi, thank you, Nkiru. I was actually just addressing one of the questions in the chat. We have a very interesting dialogue going on already, and I truly appreciate it because this is what this platform is all about. But getting on to the first question, what does sisterhood look like for millennials? I can say that for me as a millennial, and as Nkiru said, I was born and raised in New York, upstate New York, and recently moved to the city. I'm in Brooklyn, New York. It's very different, contrary to what people may think. Where I lived was so not like the city of New York. So it's a change in pace, but I believe that the experience of millennials has been quite the same all around New York. And some of you could probably relate to this. I know that a lot of my friends that I grew up with and a lot of people that I consider to be my sisters, we're spread out all over the place. So, you know, I don't have a lot of sisters here in New York. I have a few that I did go to college with. Not even a few, maybe like 1 or 2 that I went to college with here in Brooklyn with me. And the rest are upstate New York, North Carolina, Virginia, Atlanta, the West Coast. So we don't have that physical connection anymore the way that it had started out. So we've had to be very creative in finding ways to continue to nurture our sisterhood. So sometimes that just looks like checking in periodically. So if I notice that I haven't spoken to one of my sisters in a while, I'll just check in on them. If somebody comes to mind, I'll shoot them a text or give them a phone call. I know which sisters I can call to vent to. So I have my people. So I have my person I can call to talk about relationships with. I have my people that I can go to and talk about mommyhood with. We meet up for major events and holidays, maybe birthdays. If we're going to visit home and we are from the same town, then we'll kind of try to coordinate meeting up there, going together, or being there at the same time and meeting up then. It is a lot different than being in the same place with your sisters, and it feels a little lonely sometimes, but I just thank God for technology and video chat, because one of the things that I think about a lot is that our kids are not growing up together. So as opposed to my mother and her friends, their kids all grew up together. Like, we're family, we're cousins. So I just hope that my son has that same relationship with my sister's children as he grows up as well.
I like that. That was a very beautiful point. I don't know if anyone else wants to add to that.
I guess I didn't think about that part. Like, all of our kids not getting to, interact with each other. I guess it's different for me because I started having, I got pregnant really early. I was the only mom in the group anyway. So my son is always going to be like the big cousin to everybody's kids anyway. But wow, yeah, that's funny. Like, I didn't, especially with COVID, there isn't a real safe way to, get together and have all the kids together and stuff anyway. And it's going to be different. Well, I guess you can say because they're kind of born into it, it may just be their norm to have cousins that they're close to that they've never seen in person, but they get the video chat with them and FaceTime them and stuff like that. So I guess that's something to think about. Sisterhood for millennials looks like trips. I mean, if you go on IG, everybody's going on girls trips and let's go to the spa, this and that. I mean, like Katsura was saying, when you get to meet up and here and there and stuff like that, because you don't get to see, your sister at church every Sunday now, where y'all get to meet up at the grocery store, you have that thing where it's like, okay, well, twice a year, let's get together in the city and let's, hang out, let's, get together.
I think it's interesting that both of you brought that point up, like growing up, like having your children grow up with, your friends' children. 'Cause I think, and Emmanuel, I don't know if you can speak to this as well, or Kathy, because I know your immigration stories are different. Because Emmanuel, you came here, I think you said 10 years ago, and Kathy, you were born here.
Yeah.
Like, I came when I was a kid. I was
Why
4.
do you always think I was born here? I was 4.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Okay, so Kathy and I, we do have a similar, we came here at a young age, and for me, I know growing up, we would my parents would take us to different Nigerian American or specifically Igbo organizations where we could kind of meet with other Igbo parents and their children, and their children became our cousins in some way. We grew up around each other. We kind of experienced a lot of childhood together. And so it's interesting that you two brought that point up. And I wonder, kind of going a little bit off the question, but kind of based on what you were saying, would you say that in this era of COVID and virtual meetups and everything, do you think that people are more intentional about having these virtual kind of oh, I want to video chat with my cousin or with this person or that? Do you think it's more intentional now versus before, when people could travel? Were people actually traveling to hang out with family? Or I don't know, what would you guys say? Because my family, they're all in Nigeria, so I'm not going to Nigeria every year. So I don't know if you guys can add to that, or what do y'all think, Kathy or Emmanuel or anyone?
I'm like you and Kuhi. I don't really have family here like that. All my family's overseas. But like I said earlier, like my family is mostly my friends. That's pretty much. I don't know what I did, honestly. I always tell them this, but God looked out for me when he picked out my girlfriend. It's like he handpicked them specifically to fit me, you know? So, and I've heard that a lot of people with COVID and everything like that, I'm starting to see different sides of their friends, or that I'm not hanging out with their friends as much, especially people who have children. But I can't say that for me. Like my friends still make it a point to come and spend time with my kids. You know, like they'll keep their mask on and they'll come in the house and still hang out with my kids, or they'll call me every now and then, not even to talk to me, but to talk to my kids. So I mean, I like I said, I got lucky. I got lucky with that. So nothing has changed much for me for COVID as far as friendship goes. If anything, I feel like my friends are there for me more now, because now I'm a stay-at-home mom, and you know, with everything going on, I was working at the hospital, so I had to quit the hospital to come stay here with my kids, and being scared to bring COVID home with my babies are still babies. So it's like they're more intentional as far as being there for me and just kind of supporting me, because they know that I can't go anywhere. I can't take the kids anywhere. So it's like they really are trying their best.
I like that. Kathy, do you have anything?
I don't have any kids yet, but I do try to stay in my friends' kids' lives as much as I can, as far as like video chatting and stuff like that. And as far as the question goes, I believe for us, like who grew up in the 90s and stuff, especially here, it was totally different because, you know, like Katori said, that you had everybody around all the time, you know, your people who aren't even blood related to you are still your family. Whereas for now, well, for me personally, it hasn't changed, because when I moved down here, a lot of my family moved with me, and my girlfriends have literally become my sisters. So it's kind of the same thing. And when I do have kids, hopefully, I don't know when that's going to be, but whenever it does happen, I know my kids are going to have, you know, big sisters and brothers to play with and stuff like that. So yeah, that's my take.
Oh, and I have one more thing I wanted to add. Yeah, I mean, Kathy and Kuya, you will know. You know how these have this African saying where, oh, when you get married or when you have kids, you can't be hanging around your friends who don't have kids or your friends who are not married. Did you guys ever hear that? I have.
Yes.
Yeah, you've heard that, right? And I'm telling you, that's a lie. Listen, that's a lie, because I'm the first of all my group of friends to have kids. And I'm the first of all my group of friends to be like in a serious relationship and living with my partner and everything like that. And they give better advice than some married people that I know. They give great advice. They're amazing to my kids. Like it's amazing. I just wanted to put that out because it's funny. And it popped in my head when we were talking about this. And I was like, oh, I have to say this. It was funny.
And actually, I'm happy that you said that, both Emmanuel and Kathy. Like, I wanted to ask you, so Emmanuel, like for your group of girlfriends that you met, like when you came here, like those relationships that you built with them over the years, like, do you feel like you kind of had to seek those out, or did it kind of come naturally? And for Kathy as well, like for the girls that you grew up with who are like your sisters now, like how would you say that you maintain those relationships over the years? Like, did at any point you kind of split up, or you felt like, oh, you know, this is a childhood friend, or how did that relationship grow for both of you?
For me, it was organic. Like the people who weren't supposed to be there kind of just, you know, left my life, which was really easy for me. I don't have any, you know, disagreements or any ill will towards them. And for the ones who've stayed, it has been a struggle. Like being friends with girls for like 8 to 10 years is like, oh my God, you know, you have a lot of fights, you have a lot of arguments, but I believe each and every one of us have love for each other. So that's what kept us going. And we all have like a certain degree of respect. Like, I'm not going to do such and such because I know this, you know, it won't be right. to do that to this person. I wouldn't want somebody to do that to me, so I'm not going to do that to them. Whereas the other people were kind of like, you know, they didn't care. So we just parted ways. But the ones that did stay, it's been a struggle. But, you know, like I said, we have love for each other and we just keep it moving. And we remember the love and respect when we are having disagreements and stuff. And we don't take it to certain levels.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much the same thing, like love and respect, communication, big on communication and setting boundaries. So we set boundaries with each other. We know that, okay, this is what she likes. I can't cross this boundary. You know, this is where I need to kind of chill. But then we also communication is big for us. Like my best friend is a therapist. So I always tell her, it's always a therapy session every time we're around you. And it's literally always a therapy session every time we're around her. It's communication is big. And then with us, we put effort in understanding each other and learning about each other. It's kind of just like the same effort you would put in your marriage, the same effort you would put with your partner. I believe you should put that with your girlfriends as well, because it's important. It's just as important, at least to us, as to me it is. So that's kind of how we are with each other. Like we love each other to death.
I like that.
I wanted to add to that. I don't know if you all see, but there's some interesting conversations going on in the chat. And I just want to address the question that Michelle just posed. She said that she's an introvert and at times it's hard to meet friends, especially Black sisters. She said that she's been having trouble making, you know, friends with Black women. And she's asking, did it flow naturally for us all to make friends with Black women? And I wanted to answer that question because especially relocating to New York City, it hasn't been easy for me. And like you, Michelle, I am extremely introverted. I don't speak in large crowds unless it's absolutely necessary. And I tend to avoid large crowds as well. I like very small, intimate settings. And it takes me a while to warm up to people and to like, you know, open up to people as well. And that can be kind of a barrier to making friends, especially when people are outspoken or, you know, they're very open with you. That may be seen as like, people may take offense to that, not understanding that it's just your introverted nature. So I moved here in September 2018. A few months later, I was pregnant. So on top of me being introverted, I was dealing with like morning sickness and all this stuff. So I wasn't a very social person. Then I spent my first 3 months after pregnancy with my child. And then 3 months later, we entered into quarantine. So literally that has not given me much time to make friends or to be social with anyone. So that has been a challenge for me. I will say though, for me, there are certain people whose spirits that I am drawn to, and there are certain who my spirit draws them to me. So even, you know, at church, people come up to me to make conversation, and I have made friends in that way. And we've created very deep connections from that. So for me, it's not a matter of making a bunch of friends or having a bunch of people here. It's actually the quality of the relationships that I choose to focus on when engaging with anybody, really, especially Black women, because I always want my relationships to be genuine, you know, and I want it to be based, have a foundation that is grounded and deeply rooted in something meaningful for me. That's how I connect with people.
I'll add to that question as well. So me and Nkiru joke all the time because Nkiru is my best friend and I'm the extrovert. She's the introvert. You have to be adopted by an extrovert. And I would say, so I moved to Greater Atlanta in June 2017. I didn't really start making any like sisterhood girlfriends, whatever, until my son started making friends. So I always joke that my son is like loved by everybody. Like his name's Nathaniel, is Hebrew for God's gift. Like God gave him to everyone. So I signed my son up for sports, and immediately all the moms are like, oh, my son loves Nate, come over to the house, play date, this and that. And now I have like a group of 5 football moms. Nate doesn't even play football anymore, but we're still friends. We still get up and go and get drinks. We talk about, what we're going through with raising Black boys. It's a lot different than raising Black girls. It is not for the weak at all. And I mean, I made friends that way. So you may, after this is over, God willing, and the creek don't rise, you may be able to make friends while doing, I guess, introverted activities, like maybe different workshops in your area that are like spearheaded by Black women, like maybe like a writing workshop, like a sip and paint. You're gonna have to step out of your comfort zone just a tad, because in order to have friends, you have to be friendly, right? So that's my advice. I don't know what area you live in. I'm in Greater Atlanta, so there's always a free event that's ran by a Black woman, like, just drive around the corner. But I don't know if it'll be the same way where you are, but yeah, give that a try.
Also, what are some of your interests? What are you interested in? They have meetups for all types of different interests. You might make a connection with someone there as well. I just wanted to add, Nkiru and I have been married into our sisterhood. So, we have each other for life now, whether we want to or not. But it's been a great experience. Like, we just connect, we click, and I don't know, I connect with her because I can see that she's such a genuine spirit. So it's easier for me as an introvert to, I don't know, maybe go out of my comfort zone to connect with her.
Oh, it's beautiful. Ladies, so just in the effort of being mindful of time, thank you so much, Michelle, for asking that question. It's a very good question, and thank you, ladies, for answering that. And that actually kind of ties into the next question on what challenges do we experience within our sister circles. So Toy, you were, I guess, going to lead that question, but I don't know if you want Kathy or Emmanuel to take over for a little bit.
Sure. Well, I'll give my quick, and then if they want to chime in, that's fine. So I would say, especially because I saw someone in the chat mention that there's a lot of jealousy between Black women. I would say that a challenge that millennial sisterhood has is accepting what season everyone is in. So just because, you're not in the season of getting married and having babies doesn't mean that you should be jealous of your sisters that are. Prime example, when the week Nkiru got married, I want to say the week before, the week after, I filed for divorce from my marriage. There was abuse. I definitely needed to leave it. It was done. It was over. However, Nkiru never heard anything about me saying like, oh, well, your marriage isn't going to last, or, oh, you shouldn't have wore that dress, and I can't believe you're doing this and doing that. And I sent her and Nelson a gift, and I was all cheers, and I was extremely, extremely, extremely happy for her because he put in work and he deserved her. She deserves him. He worships the ground she walks on, which he should, period. So I think that that's definitely one of the things, like, just because someone appears to be ahead in life than you are, it doesn't mean that, there should be snide remarks, there should be jealousy. You should just be happy for them and wait for your turn.
Does anyone want to address that?
I mean, no, you're
challenge.
Right. Oh, I'm sorry. Started talking.
Okay. One challenge I used to face in like friendships was being way too intrusive. Like, most of my friends are alpha females, so we tend to, if our friend is going through whatever, you voice your opinion way too much than you need to. So one thing that we have learned in my group of friends is, kind of shutting up sometimes and just being a listening ear when your friend is venting, rather than being like, oh, if I was in this situation, I wouldn't do that. Or if I was in that situation, I would say this or I would do that. because you're not in the situation. Sometimes people just need to come and vent. They don't need you chiming in. They don't need you telling them what to do. They just need a listening ear. So that's one of the challenges that we faced.
Any others before I go to the next question?
Oh, I forgot to unmute myself.
Yeah.
No, but no, I was gonna say, like Toynia said, like other women's being jealous of each other. You know, everybody has their own season. If anything, if my girlfriend, let's say, starts her own business and I'm here staying at home, like I'm a stay-at-home mom right now and I'm not doing much. If anything, if I see my friend doing these businesses and doing great, she will motivate me. It will motivate me to be like, okay, you know what? Let me go ahead and catch up with her, because you know it's a motivation. It's nothing it shouldn't be, we shouldn't get jealous of each other. We should be like motivating each other. You see somebody else doing good, it should be pushing you to do greater or to do just as good as the person, you know, that's doing great, if I'm saying it right. I forgot how to speak English there for a minute.
So like the next question is actually in 4 parts, so we're gonna kind of break it up. How do we as women, particularly Black women, see ourselves at work? That's Kathy, you're gonna address that one. At home, Katsura, that one is yours. In our communities, Toy, that's yours. And in our relationships, Emmanuel, that's yours. So how do we as women view ourselves in these different settings, in the workplace, in your home life, in your community, whether, you know, your family or community, however you want to look at it, and in relationships?
For me, I'm me wherever I am. Like, I have a very strong personality, so it's kind of like, I don't know, like I just always see myself as a leader. I take initiative at work. I'm usually like the one who always wants to get stuff done. I don't wait to be told. I just, you know, do what I have to do. That's just me, because that's just my personality. So that would be my answer.
Oh, I like that. Okay.
Okay. So as far as how we see ourselves in the community, particularly for Black women, I believe that we are the glue and the bridge that keeps our communities together. I say this all the time, and I am a firm believer of this, that if the women in our community are well, then our community will be well. Like, it is our nature to get things done and to make things happen that we feel need to happen. It's never a matter of, you know, how we're feeling on the inside or what we have going on in our personal lives. Like, we just have this mentality, this attitude, this feeling that things need to get done. We need to get it done and nobody else is going to do it. So this is what we need to do right now. This is how it needs to happen. And that's one of the things that I love about us. We get it done. I worked in a clinic full of Black women, from the director to the providers to the educators to all the way to the receptionist at the front door, full of Black women. And you can tell the difference between how our clinic was run and how other clinics within our network were run, because we just make stuff happen. Like, we experience challenges, but that's nothing new for us. Like, we are known to, it's in our DNA to overcome challenges.
And I just want to like just interject briefly with that, like as it relates to like how you see yourself in the workplace. Like where I'm working currently, like I'm so happy to be in a place where, you know, you can talk about, you know, social justice, you can talk about Black issues. Like it really feels like a welcoming home kind of environment. And I feel like if you're in a different kind of work setting where it's maybe mostly white and mostly male, you wouldn't have that same kind of feeling of, you know, being able to kind of express yourself fully as, you know, as a Black woman or as a Black man or any other, you know, cultural background. So I think it's important to kind of see ourselves in these positions where we are represented. And that's, you know, part of why we're having this discussion. So in our communities, Toy?
So I am the board secretary of Safe Space Property Management Incorporated. It's a 501c3 based in Greater Atlanta, and it is dedicated to serving domestic violence survivors and their families. So as far as how Black women are seen in the community, it's it's a catch-22 because especially when it comes to running a nonprofit due to white supremacy and racism, a lot of Black organizations are seen as always trying to steal money or trying to do things that are related to fraud, whereas, the larger white organization that actually are stealing money and are doing a lot of fraud aren't viewed that way. So I find that a lot of Black women, especially when it comes to serving the community, whether that be an organization, a church, whatever, we're always the little engine that could. We're always, kind of doing the work on the ground level. And like Katsura was saying, we're always making it happen. So, prime example, we do a toy drop every year. And this year we were like, oh, we're only going to do 25 kids because of COVID. Let's make it small. We ended up sponsoring almost 40 kids because we couldn't turn anyone away. And we made it work. All of the kids were sponsored. All of the kids were, given several gifts. They got coats and hats, the whole shebang. We even had one pregnant survivor. We were able to get her a stroller and a car seat. All of this was because we just make it happen. Like, that's just what it is, especially when it's other Black women. I answered in the survey that I'm my sister's keeper. I have to be the change that I want to see. I tell my survivors all the time, I survived so that you can thrive.
That's powerful.
Thank you.
Emmanuel, in your relationships or in our relationships?
Yeah. Remember last time we talked about this, I was like, I never really thought about that, like how I view myself and what my role is in our relationship with my partner. But people expect when they walk into my household to see me in the kitchen, cooking and cleaning with a baby on my hip and doing all of that. And I tell them all the time, under my roof, it's not like that. Me and my fiance, we are partners. We are literally equal. He sees me as his equal. He's not your typical everyday old school African man who is like, comes home, puts his feet up, where's my food? That's not him, okay? Like, there's this one time, he was cleaning, and then a family member came over, and I was just chilling on the couch watching TV. And then she walks in and she goes, "Hey, why is your man sweeping the floor?" why are you watching TV? And I'm sitting here like, sis, because I'm tired. What do you mean, why? Because I am tired. And he got up and he saw that I was tired and he started cleaning, taking care of our daughter. That was before we had our son. And he's very hands-on, very, very hands-on. And I always thank the Lord above that I lucked out, okay? Because it's tough, to like you guys always say, they expect us to kind of just deal with everything and do everything. And no matter how tired you are, no matter how sleepy you are, even if you're having a mental breakdown. And I had terrible postpartum depression. My postpartum was bad. It was really, really, really bad. Like, it was hard for me to get out of bed some days. It was hard for me to even take showers, you guys. Like, I would go days where I wouldn't even want to do anything. I wouldn't recognize myself. So postpartum for me was really hard. So I couldn't just sit here and be like, you know what, I'm just going to suck it up, get up and go clean and go cook and go do everything like that, where he just sits there and just enjoys life, and that's what they expected me to do. But I'm like, that's not me. That's not how he is. That's not how our relationship works. He's very, okay, we split the work in half, baby, if you're tired, I can handle this. Sometimes I do have to tell him, hey, Papa, get up. Come on, let's go. Get to work, go do this, go do that. But so the way society expects the African community, I'm not even gonna say that, the way the African community expects me to be is not the way that I am. And I do get little looks from time to time like, how can you Like, how can you do this? You just stay home while you're tired, you know? And I'm like, right? Shake your head, y'all, because it's a shame.
Listen, the way I just sucked my teeth, you would think that I was an African woman over here.
It's a dang on shame that that's what they expect of us. And I have a daughter, and I will not want my daughter to sit here and be going through some stuff inside and just kind of suck it up and soak it all in and just deal with it and just go on about being a servant to her partner, to whoever, her spouse or whatever. And that's kind of where I'm like, I don't want to teach that to my daughter. And that's why we practice it at home. They're like, oh, she's young, she won't open up. No, she might be only 2 years old, but she sees things, they pick up on things like that, like sometimes when she's hungry, she doesn't just come to me because I'm not the only one that just feeds her. She'll go to her dad too. She knows that both mom and dad take care of me, both mom and dad do this for me.
Emmanuel, I'm so happy that you mentioned that, because I think you said like a mouthful. First of all, the fact that sometimes we as women kind of perpetuate these systems of like patriarchy. Your fellow African woman came into your home, saw you relaxing, and instead of her to be happy, I guess, I don't know, I think, when women, or when we as women, when we're going through challenges, I think for some people, unfortunately, they feel like if I'm suffering in my home, you need to suffer in your home as well. Or if I'm not living an excellent life where I'm, enjoying my life to the fullest, you also shouldn't be enjoying your life. You should be suffering like our mothers and grandmothers did, and slaving in the kitchen and stuff, even though
like somebody
you have a partner.
Yeah.
So I mean, that was a very good point.
Like, you only have 2 kids. What about moms who have 5 kids? How do you think they handle it?
Oh. Yeah, but that's not your reality. And not just that,
I was like oh, excuse me,
Yeah, like I don't know. I think we feel, especially, and I know our Black American sisters can relate as well, because I feel like we kind of all go through the same things, like in different ways. Like we feel like we all have to like we compete so much, even in like struggle. Like, oh, this person is not struggling as hard as I am, so they're having easy life. No, everyone goes through different things. What you say?
I said, in the DV community, we call it trauma Olympics, where you have to like up the suffering that you're through. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah,
I was gonna say that what you just said, Nkiru, it actually brought me back to the question about the older women in the community treating you differently. I feel like it has a lot to do with trauma and their own experiences. So because maybe they had some certain struggles that we have as millennials been intentional about not experiencing, it's like we get a different attitude towards our lifestyle. So like, Emmanuel, I'm sure that you have 2 children and not 5 by choice, right?
Amen.
And I'm sure you chose to do that with a partner by choice, right? So that may not be the experience that some other women have dealt with. Or Nkiru, I'm sure you chose to marry the man that worships the ground you walk on by choice. I'm sure you accepted that proposal because he worships the ground that you walk on, along with some other things. So, I mean, I think that as millennials, we're really intentional about how we want our life to be, and we make choices around that. And that has not always been, not only has it not been the experience, but a lot of Black women, especially in generations before us, they have not had that privilege to do so. So some of that envy and or jealousy may be coming from that place.
That is true. That is true. And this actually ties perfectly into one of our questions. So we're going to save some of that for that question towards the end. We're going to quickly go into who is in your village, and are these people always family members? That's for Toy and Emmanuel, or anyone who would like to answer.
I'll go first. So for sure, mine consists of my friends, my cousins, my sister, all that stuff. You cannot tell my son Nathaniel that Nkiru was not his aunt. You can't. Like, To him, we are blood related. She is Nkiru, the end. Like, you cannot tell him anything else. Like, I think a couple of months ago, I was like, yeah, like a play aunt, like your Aunt Kiru, because we don't have the same mom. And he was like, what do you mean? That's Aunt Kiru. She is my aunt. The end. So I think I think that what term did you use in Kiru?
Yes, fictive kinships.
Fictive kinships. I think they can become real friendships of real families when our kids are born into it. Aunt Kiru has been Aunt Kiru from day one. Since the day he was born, that's it. He doesn't know anything else. He's not somebody that just appeared later on. So I think it's important for us to teach our children about, that everyone is your brother and sister, cousin, aunt, uncle, so that we can build this rapport and this respect for each other in our communities.
That's powerful. I don't know, Emmanuel, were you going to touch that?
Yeah, like she's right. Like I said earlier, like I don't have a lot of family here, but the little bit of family that I do have here are definitely part of my village, But um like I've talked about my postpartum. I mentioned that earlier, how bad it was, but I never reached out to my African people about that because in Kuya, we don't really, in Kathy, we don't really talk about that in our community at all. So I like my friends that I met when I came to America, they're the ones who were really my backbone through my postpartum. They were through my mental breakdown, through my like anxiety, my panic attacks, all of that. They were really, really there for me, and that's my village. That's my village. Those are my kids' aunt. Like Toynia said, like my kids know that those are aunties, those are titis. Those are aunties. They even my kids call them mamas. Like those are my moms. That's how my kids see, like my children see them. So I mean, I don't know much to say. My girls are my world, y'all.
I would like to piggyback off of that. So in the Q&A, someone asked, do African American women and African women face challenges when becoming friends? So me and Nkiru actually did like a whole podcast episode. Maybe she can share the link to it about that. I would say, I do say there are challenges, yes, so there can be challenges. I think it depends on the background that the person was raised in. So I was raised, Nation of Islam. My grandparents are Black Panthers and everything. So I was always raised to respect, the importance of Africa. I've learned about like the different African countries. I've always known that it was a continent and not a country.
Thank you.
There were different cultures and languages and all that. Like I didn't, view African people as what's that stupid term? As African booty scratchers or anything like that. Like I was never stupid. So so it helped a lot that I was always an open-minded person when it came to the different cultures of Africa. Go ahead, Nkiru.